Consideration and direction on placement of the Forever Marilyn sculpture on Museum Way between Museum Drive and Bellardo Road, adjacent to Downtown Park. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. With regard to this item, what's before you is PS Resorts, which is the tourism organization which was planning on acquiring the Forever Marilyn statue, wanted to move forward. And as you may recall, there is a location in the downtown park where we had asked the architect to put as a placeholder as a possible location. That being said, upon further review, the Palm Springs Resorts is the main stakeholder in the organization going to purchase this. They decided that that was not the ideal location, and they have requested that it be actually on Museum Way. That being said, is they want to move forward to procure this statue, but they wanted direction from City Council if you would be okay with actually having that as the site for the statue. So this is before you this evening for some direction to Palm Springs, to PS Resorts, to see if in fact you would be in agreement with them citing it on Museum Way. And I am going to ask Marcus Fuller, Assistant City Manager, he has a couple slides of the locations, and I'm going to have him walk through that site. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As noted in the staff report, and as we all know, this sculpture was located at Palm Canyon and Tahquitz Canyon Way for about 2 years between 2012 and 2014. Shown before you is an aerial view of that and a perspective showing how she was located there. Planning for this sculpture was incorporated into the downtown park. On the left-hand side of your screen is shown the east side of the park, which is on the west side of Bellardo Road. We have a large sidewalk that will mimic the sidewalk to the south in front of the Rowan Hotel. And on that large sidewalk area, there is space for this sculpture. It would be located essentially where that screenshot is on the right-hand side. It would be to the left of that parked car and would be oriented with a view towards the north. As that's not ideal, PS Resorts has requested that this sculpture be located somewhere in this area on Museum Way between Museum Drive on the west and Bellardo Road on the east. This is a city street. We did plan for it to be closed periodically. There are bollards installed in the street at either end, and that was planned for as this would be an outgrowth of the downtown park and allow for outdoor activities. And this is a screenshot looking towards the museum on the west, and on that street would be where PS Resorts has requested the sculpture be located. Mr. Mayor?
Great, thank you. And just to add for council members, one of the issues with where the statue was approved in the park was not just sort of the siting, but also the issue that people would be having to stand in the middle of the street to take pictures, and it created an unsafe pedestrian issue. PS Resorts had some other suggestions in the park, which would have probably made the park the Maryland Park, and so that wasn't encouraged, and so they came up with this as another solution, and the staff report goes through the options that were looked at. So with that, we'll open it up to questions and comments. I'm just calling someone on this. Councilmember Woods, you look ready. You're on mute. You're going to stay on mute.
Maybe I should stay on mute. Exactly. We've gotten a lot of correspondence on this, to say the least, both for and against. I guess I just want to make sure that, we're not using public money of the general fund to bring this sculpture here. All they're really asking is to use our public right-of-way at this point. So I just wanted to echo that we're not using any public funds for this, any city general plan, the general fund.
Thank you. Councilmember Middleton, you're not on mute.
You know, we've received a tremendous amount of correspondence on this, and I don't know if it's equally divided between positive and negative, but all of it is very emotional and very wrought opinion. I find myself going back to when this first came into to Palm Springs, and I'm going to be very honest. I took a look at it and said, well, it's not my taste, and I thought it was a little kitschy, but you know, I wasn't on city council in those days, and others made the decision, and to my surprise, and I think to many others, there was an incredible draw of people across a huge range of people and personalities that found themselves going to the statue and enjoying themselves while being there. And I know we in this city are incredibly sensitive to how things are perceived. And the perception on the ground was that this was simply a fun statue to use that brought smiles to people's faces. And if there was a moment when my opinion changed on it, it was on that cold night when my good friend Barbara Villani and other individuals with the Coachella Valley Knitting Crocheting Society had put together very colorful leggings to go onto the statue. And they had a grand time that evening with the leggings going up. And I know some of the women that did that. And they'll match their feminist vows with absolutely anyone. And they saw it as fun. We're in the middle of a COVID crisis, and I'm not sure this is the perfect location for it. I don't know that there is a perfect location in Palm Springs. But after weighing things tremendously on this, I'm inclined to support it at the preferred location of PS Resorts. There is a breadth of individuals that are supportive, but I think we should come back in 1-2 years and evaluate what's working and what's not, most particularly after the downtown park is completed. Is this still working as the right location? But closing off Museum Way and making it a pedestrian area, I think it provides us an opportunity to incorporate more art into it to the extent that we increase foot traffic on Museum Way. That benefits the art museum, it benefits the Illuminaire House, it benefits all of the businesses. So let's give it a shot.
Thank you. Anyone else want to go? I'm happy to speak, but if someone else wants to speak first.
I can go ahead.
Sure. I'm a liaison to PS Resorts, so I've, was there when they've had discussions, and Mayor Pro Tem Holstage and I met with some of the folks about options. For their view to bring her here is going to be in that downtown core. You know, there have been other suggestions in other places that they're just don't feel it serves the goal of the increase in tourism, increase in residents and people in the downtown. There was a place in the park. I know some people emailed me that it, you know, should not be anywhere near the park. That had been a placeholder, as has been said. The other spot that was discussed was, you know, a platform being built over where the art pit is, right next to the road. As the other option, this gives more visibility from Palm Canyon, sets up an art walk, and of course the road can handle the weight. And that's not an issue we have with some other areas. So just some background on that. I do know that PS Resorts has said, and I think Mr. Dada said in his public comments, that they would do a full study in 2 years, including attendance at the museum. And if it was impacting the museum, they were open to finding another location. So they agreed to just a 3-year agreement is what they're asking for. So it can be reevaluated, sort of to what Councilmember Middleton said. But I do think when she was here last time, when I first read about her, I sort of had the same reaction as Councilmember Middleton when I saw the statue being put up. It sort of made me smile, and just to see so many things there, so many events that surrounded it, you know, it really brought a lot of joy. I've definitely heard some of the concerns as well. So I appreciate everyone weighing in. Councilmember Garner.
Thank you. This is just an interesting issue. I was, laughing in the beginning because it's not something that I think anybody really expects to be voting on, and it doesn't seem like there's good answers because, like we said, we've received so much public comment with a lot of different opinions, and people can get pretty heated on this, and it's still just so interesting to me. Not something I would have expected. Personally, I really love the idea of having this statue in Francis Stevens Park. I've been a big proponent of taking out the Rainmaker fountain and putting in something else for a long time. I just don't think it suits us anymore in Palm Springs. But obviously, there would be a lot more logistics going into removing that piece before Marilyn statue could even go there. So for me, in the meantime, I'm okay with trying out this location. And I think that one of the things from growing up here is that our museum doesn't get the attention that it often deserves. And so I am interested to see if this helps to drive some attention there. But I also do understand the desire to keep the museum separate, so to speak, or just to really be able to showcase the architecture. I can understand and appreciate what people are saying about that. I'm more comfortable with allowing it to be there for 1 year, not 3 years. I understand they have the statue for that long, but I think 1 year is sufficient to give us a sense of how it's going. And maybe within a year or two, we will have removed the statue or the Rainmaker fountain, and we can put something up, because regardless of whether Marilyn goes there or not, I think it's something that we should consider removing. I don't know how much it costs to maintain it or to supply the water, but it's probably not cheap. So that's just kind of my thought. I'd really prefer a 1 year rather than anything longer than that.
Anyone else? Mayor Pro Tem Holstitch.
Thank you. I just have a question for staff. So we're negotiating. So I see that the direction that staff is requesting is authorizing the city manager to execute a 3-year license agreement for the placement of the statue, if that's what we choose to do. So I think some of that might be, some of the council member comments might be included or incorporated into a agreement like that, like the term. I'm wondering if there are also terms or provisions about moving it, in a shorter amount of time, if there are issues. or placing it in an alternate location if the location doesn't work, or things like that. I'm just wondering if those are types of things that we could include in the agreement, or if it would just be a simple agreement.
I would offer that certainly council could impose any foundational terms in the agreement that you prefer. I know from their perspective, obviously, in doing it originally, it obviously will be a it's a thing to install it. Obviously, the foundation, put it in, and then once it's in, the experience was it was sort of beyond anyone's expectation. And then every time then there was any discussion of, well, it's being moved, it's time certain, which is what the loan was for. There seemed to be a crescendo of dissatisfaction that it was leaving, and then it would be extended, and that went on for a couple of years. So that being said, I think once it's there, it's going to be a little hard to move it certainly quickly. Now the PS Resorts indicates that they understand that it's likely not going to be there forever. They have a term of 3 years. If council wants to do less than that, we certainly would make that request back.
Okay, so we need just to give direction now about the time. And then I was wondering, someone in public comment raised the issue of crowds gathering during COVID, and I thought it was a good point. I know that that's one of the draws about why PS Resorts want Marilyn is because it was so popular. So I'm just wondering if we've thought through sort of how to manage that from the city's perspective.
Well, there's no question it will be a gathering point, and we are going to have to go through an education process with signage, and probably we're going to have to be there on site for a little bit until people realize that they need to social distance and certainly be wearing their face covering. So that's something we'd have to enforce, and we'd start obviously with education and signage.
Thank you. I agree with everyone's comments. I think, Marilyn has a complicated, complex history. I've been sitting here trying to, think about if she's a empowered, woman, or if she's a victim or a survivor. And we got a lot of comments about that. But overall, I'm not an artist or an art critic. I'm an attorney, so I'm the opposite of that. I do think that there was a lot of public support for the statue when she was here. And people, it brought a lot of joy to people. And it's also problematic for other people, and that's, I think, the role of art in a lot of ways is to foster some of those conversations. So I'm wondering if, and I'm, by the way, very excited about PS Resorts and the idea in their letter about an art walk to the museum, because I do know a lot of people my friends who visited Palm Springs, who aren't aware that there's a museum there and don't go that way. And I think an art walk really would help to sort of foster people, moving in that direction. Obviously, people will be visiting our park. So I'm excited about the opportunity for an art walk. I'm wondering if there's a role for the commission here and thinking about, placement of the statue exactly, or working on the art walk itself along with the statue, so that we can really make that like a whole experience. Because I do think we need these types of interactive public art that are Instagrammable, that's going to drive tourism on social media in a way that our city really needs right now. So I want to be, and I am supportive of our tourism economy and continuing to revitalize our downtown and giving people things to do outdoors, as long as it's safe during this pandemic. So I think the statue brings a lot of that. And then maybe the Art Commission can work on, some of the details there.
And I think that's a good idea. And I think if the museum is willing to have them work on that art walk, with the Arts Commission would be great. So on the years, I think the installation is over $100,000 for PS Resorts. So moving it frequently would be tough. and I think, given COVID, to get the data on what it's going to do may, 1 year may be short. Councilmember Garner.
Can I chime in on that? Yeah. I basically, I just want to be able to be doing some kind of regular check-in with the museum and Palm Springs Resorts and just how everything's going. So, I don't know. I feel like if we say 2 years or 3 years, even if it's terrible for the museum, people hang on to that. No, you said 3 years. And especially if we're signing a contract, and that's just my concern is that, we have some sort of flexibility in there in case this really isn't working.
Okay, so, I don't know, David, Jeff, can we do something so we have that kind of regular check-in? Obviously, the museum is not going to be open until we're out of purple at all. So we have a while where that's not going to happen. And when it is, it's 25% if we even get to that point in the next couple of months. So is the best thing to sort of just continue. I think we sort of have people work with liaisons and PS Resorts and on a final sort of agreement. Is that the best way on the terms? They're taking into account that ability to check in if it's really creating problems.
Well, my recommendation on that, and again, of going through this previously, is so one option is you could have a 3-year term, and we would actually incorporate into the agreement that we would have a formal discussion of it, 6 months, 1 year, as an update in a council setting. And then there should be some, and I'll let the city attorney address this, but there should be some ability for parties to get out of the agreement before 3 years. Now, maybe there's it's a 12-month or a 6-month lead time, but we could go into it with a 3, but for some extraordinary circumstances, certainly there should be a way that either party should be able to get out of the agreement.
Agreed.
And if the other, they're going to move it to his private property right next to it, give some time to figure that out if this is a problem. Councilmember Woods. Dennis, mute.
Yeah. I like the idea of having an out clause with a lead time. I want to give some credence to those people who are objecting to the location. I think there is a lot of credence to what they're saying. This is a very tall sculpture. It will dominate that roadway, and it will dominate the view to the museum. I don't think there's any doubt that it's not going to do that. It is indeed very kitschy. There's a place for kitsch that goes along with that, and it will dominate the park. And if we're going to accept this, we got to accept that the scale of this thing is going to do this. But if it's a temporary thing, we can find out how it works. But I am not at this point willing to say that we're going to do this along with an art walk, because the scale of it is so big, it will dwarf any art walk that we have. And quite frankly, unless the museum is involved in that art walk, I'd rather see art spread throughout the city. When people Instagram front doors, colored doors, they go throughout the city, and we really would like people to tour the rest of the city. So let's put some of our art money in other parts of the city where people will go and see it. Let's not densify the downtown with all of our art and then have the rest of it, not exist. This isn't the Bean of Millennial Park in Chicago. This isn't the Bean. Which I think is what the museum really would like, or those who are sane would like, or is it the reflective roof in Paris? But it is kitschy, and it does kind of fit Palm Springs to a great degree, and I think it's worth a go. I just think we just need it out with some lead time if there's problems with it. And by problems, I'm saying I don't know that we say that it can support the garage. We've had some problems with the garage, but if it doesn't, or if traffic is a problem or whatever, there is a way to get out of it. And I also, because it's a little bit dark back there, especially with the vacant lots, that we may ask them to do some sort of uplighting or something of that nature so that it's a draw of the eye from Palm Canyon as well as a safety issue. But I just wanted to say I didn't want to leave those people who've written letters to think that there was no credence or that we didn't consider, or that I didn't personally very much consider that as a factor in our consideration tonight. But I also want to say that I understand Instagram and Facebook and all of the others are very powerful tools for tourism. Impressions are very powerful tools. You pay a lot of money to get impressions. And we are a tourist economy that needs a little boost right now. So maybe it really is a good thing for us. So I can support this.
Is this something you need a motion on, or is this enough direction, David?
Well, yeah, so you'd be authorizing me to enter into what the recommendation is, a 3-year license agreement, but I believe the direction is to have a termination clause. So I will work with the city attorney, and normally I would bring these agreements back to the city council. However, in this case, it's a license agreement. Mr. City Attorney, is this something you need to bring back to council, or can we do it with the direction that we have?
I think we can do it with the direction we've been given.
Okay. So if I understand, we certainly want, we want to have a regular report back to council, and we do want to have a termination clause in this agreement.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of kind of thing Councilmember Gardner and Woods raised, right? You know, the street can't hold it. It's creating a major attendance problem at the museum. You know, so we should give the kind of things, and obviously you should, you know, negotiate that. And if you need 2 of us to help with that, we can do that as well.
And if I can, Mr. Mayor, I think we said this, so sorry it's late, but I just want to clarify for the public, along the lines of what Councilmember Gardner said, the city is not paying for this statue, so we don't have the pick of locations of, you know, all of the ideas that everyone sent in, which I think are really good. And personally, I also would like to see it in Francis Stevens, because I also think that the fountain no longer works, and it takes up a big portion of that park, which is a really nice gathering spot, and it's got to go. So, you know, I think there are other locations in the city, but because PS Resorts is spending their money to bring this statue, the request in front of City Council is to approve it, you know, in the street, in Museum Way, or in the park. So I just wanted to, as I'm going through all of the public comments that we received, just clarify for that for people. Thank you.
Councilmember Littleton.
Since 2 of my colleagues have said they prefer Francis Stevens Park, that's where I've preferred it pretty much all along. So I think let's go with the trial that we have at this location and see what works. But I would encourage PS Resorts and others to look at other alternatives as we're moving forward and see what does work and what does not. But this is a trial, and let's see how it plays out.